talented. There's a reason that we've got 15 running backs on the 53-man roster. He's just that good, and we're just underutilizing. Now, I am say this. I'm proud that they have gotten him active in the passing game, because that is something that Saints fans didn't think he had, that he has always had, and we're starting to see it now. He's got 12 targets and 10 receptions on the year. We saw his touchdown last night. He's got 76 yards. And not just that, he's got 12 total first downs for the team, which is tied for the lead. He's tied with Willie Snead for the lead in first downs for New Orleans, which that's one of the most underrated stats in the NFL. Players that can get you first downs are worth their weight in gold, and he can do that for us.
Mark Ingram is a do-it-all running back. I mean, it's just that simple. The only person that doesn't seem to remember that at all times is his head coach. You know, there's always, you know, a coach or two who always says that, who always brings it up when they want to make a coaching point. They'll say something like, they used to say the only person that could stop Michael Jordan when he was in college was Dean Smith. Same situation with Sean Payton. The only person that could stop Mark Ingram is Sean Payton, because he's just not giving the ball. That's about as easy as it gets. If you see good things happen when you give Mark Ingram the ball most of the time.
Yeah, and to be fair, we can't get it coached for that last night, because he did use Ingram. I mean, Ingram was getting steadily fed. They just were behind by too much. You couldn't keep feeding him the rock. But, I mean, we did run Ingram, 15 times? He probably would have gotten another 5 had the game been closer, so he would have got close to 20 carries, maybe hit 100 yards. You know, I can't blame him last night. That offensive game planning was great. It was. There were some stalled drives. Yeah, there's things you can fix. I don't have many complaints about the offense last night. They did what they had to do to win. The team is just so hurt right now. Nick Underhill said it. You just can't expect wins out of these guys when you've got free agents playing who don't even know your defensive playbook.
And I've been hammering that point out, but when I do it, you know, as well as I'm pretty sure, you know, when I saw Nick's tweet on that when he said, you know, you may not want to hear this, but it's the absolute truth. You know, you and I have been hammering this point home since we started the Who Dat Confessional, and I've been a part of the show. You cannot have your starting corner go out week 1. The very next week, week 2, you have another starting corner go out. Now you're playing week 3 with guys who shouldn't even be on the field at this point. They should be learning the playbook, maybe playing special teams, as well as you're missing your starting linebacker in Ellerby. You're missing your starting defensive tackle in Rankin. I mean, I don't know how many more guys you need out. I mean, I think at last count it's about 8 or 9 guys on the Saints defense alone that have missed it, that are going to miss this season. From Haloi Kakaha to Damian Swan, you know, the list goes on. And by the way,
I can name them for you if you want.
Kenny Vaccaro, your second best tackler on the defense, didn't play last night as well. You were totally outmanned. Atlanta was supposed to win that game, and they did. And the Saints still had their chances.
Well, just to throw this for everybody out there who don't have an official count, I'm going to rattle off all the starters, just the starters who are on injured reserve for us right now. And we're going to – and let me also add people in who are no longer with the team, because Keenan Lewis was expected to be a starter. So let's go ahead and add him in. Sheldon Rankins, P.J. Williams, who was starting after Bro, Delvin Bro, who won't be back for about 6 weeks. We had Kenny Vaccaro out last night. You then had Damian Swan, who I consider the third cornerback position a starting position, the nickel cornerback, because it's so often used in the NFL today. Some people can argue that either way. I understand that. I consider Damian Swan a starter, though, because that nickel corner is so important in today's NFL. Then we've got Stephon Anthony not even playing. We lost Kikaha, who was going to be your starting defensive end, opposite side of Cameron Jordan. What am I up to now? 6? I just named 7 players? Because I named 4 corners, so I think I've named 7 players. I got to count it now. So we got Kikaha, Bro, Swan, Lewis, Williams. We had Vaccaro out last night, so we'll count him. Who else? Oh, Rankins. Yeah, that's 7 players I've rattled off, and you can make arguments for the role players who also haven't played. Oh, We forgot Donnell Ellerbe. That's 8 starters. Now, in the Ellerbe situation, Craig Robinson has probably sold his job. So maybe not as big of a loss on that 8th one, but still, when you have 8 starters out, can you really expect? I mean, you're literally saying, hey, BJ Webb, or hey, what more? Just go cover that guy. Don't play cover 3. Don't worry about apple XY banana, Coach Gruden. Just go cover the guy. That's the point that we're at right now. So am I really going to gripe? Nah.
I agree with you on that, and that's the point that a lot of us have been trying to hammer home. You can't lose that many guys. And these are not just scrubs. These are key pieces that you were looking forward to playing. You can't lose that many guys and expect at any point for you to continue to win games. It's too difficult in the NFL. It's way too difficult, especially when you're talking about starters. Guys that you were – did I mention Tyler Davison was out last night? Did we actually get a chance to include him as well?
Oh, we didn't. He's been starting on the defensive line and actually been doing pretty well this year. I've got some stats on him if people want to have me rattle him off. He's done pretty impressive at defensive tackle next to Nick Fairley. So he should definitely be counted in that as well.
And that's just my point. It's so many guys that are missing that you're forgetting guys who are supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a crazy situation when you have a guy who's such an integral part of the run defense, like a Tyler Davison, like a Kenny Vaccaro. These guys are counted on to be, run stoppers, and they weren't there.
Another one, Jamarcus Sanford. I know he went IR real early, but he's a safety that's made some plays for a strong role player. That's another one.
Even if he contributes to special teams, he's still the guy that's not on. You had Bobby Richardson, who was basically a starter for you last year. You got rid of him.
Oh, man. So
it's so many guys that you had that you were going to count on. But the numbers game played a part in Bobby Richardson being gone. So it's amazing to see the Saints even be able to field a competent team at this point. Last night offensively you don't have Snead. And I'll say this for anybody that's listening. I was wrong about Willie Snead. I was one of the guys who felt like, he would be, an addition to the roster, but he could not be Lance Moore 2.0 like everybody was propping him up to be. I was wrong. I was wrong. Willie Snead is everything that Lance Moore was and more, and I have to give it to him. And imagine what Willie Snead would have been able to do when you see guys like Brandon Coleman and Kobe Fleener actually catching the ball and doing well. It only puts hope in me that Willie Snead would have been even better. I can say this. Atlanta did right to win that game last night while the Saints were depleted, because if the Saints were healthy, that's a different ball game. And I hate to make the ifs and all of that stuff like that, but we have to call it what it is. You can't deny the facts. The facts are Saints went into that game way undermanned and put up a good showing for a team that should have been beaten.
Well, since you mentioned the Falcons game again, I'm going to use this as the opportunity to talk about what happened last night that kind of got mixed reviews on Twitter. And I'll explain after I let you hit it first. The display of unity between the Falcons and the Saints. Everybody who listened last week knows that we hit on a topic that needs to be talked about. Doesn't need that conversation to stop. Brian here let me call in Saturday. We talked about it on his show. We feel that this is important. So go ahead and unload us on what you thought about the display of unity between the Falcons and the Saints.
Let me start by saying this. I have no issue with anybody wanting to promote the conversation, keep it going forward, especially if you're going to do it in a positive manner. I still hated what the Saints and the Falcons did last night. I hate it. I will always hate it, and there's nothing anyone can do to convince me otherwise other than to hate it. If you're going to tell me, well, it was supposed to be an act of kindness and showing love, and all, look, first of all, I understand that there's some things that transcend football. I would have rather see the Saints do it alone than to go walk hand in hand and hold hands with the Falcons. It sent the wrong message from the opening gate. Yes, I understand that you guys wanted to show it was bigger than football. Cool. Do it in a different way. Have a team prayer before and after the game. I don't care. Holding hands and singing Kumbaya before the game with your hated rival, I can't take that part. Secondly, there was way too many of the Saints players in and of themselves showing outrage. And that just seemed like a very passive way to show that outrage. You didn't have to take a knee during the anthem. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing. You didn't have to raise a fist. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing. But I would have rather see something more aggressive towards showing your displeasure with the way things are going, other than holding hands. I made it clear long before the Saints took the field. I did not want to see a Seattle type of locking arms or any type of event like that. I just felt it sent the wrong message, because if you didn't know why Seattle was in the middle of the field locking arms, or on the sidelines locking arms, you would have never known. It just seemed like, they were out there locking arms looking like a bunch of goofballs. I feel the same way about the Saints. If you didn't know why they were supposed to be showing an act of solidarity or an act of unity, and, if you didn't know why, those guys standing in the middle of the field holding hands or whatever like that, nobody knows. Are they praying? Are they showing remembrance because it was Steve Gleason's, 10th-year block anniversary, and those are the two teams that participated in? You don't know, and that gets lost in their display of emotion. I'm not with it. I'm totally against what they did. I understand why they did it, but I just think it was way too passive and it was way too confusing. If somebody showed you a picture of that moment, you would not understand what was going on. If somebody showed you a picture of Kaepernick sitting on the bench or taking a knee, you would exactly understand you will always remember why he did it. You will never remember why the Saints did what they did. Sorry for the long explanation, but those are my thoughts on that one.
No. Here's what I feel on it. I do disagree with you in a certain way, but here's why. My biggest thing with the unity symbol is I like what it stands for, because I do think the message of this transcends football is what this needs to come down to. Now, in terms of, let me say this, and I said this on Twitter last night, what will upset me is if all that happens is that you joined hands with the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. Okay, you brought attention to it. Everybody saw your display of unity. Now what? I feel that something has to happen now. If that was the catalyst that starts whatever, I mean, Mark Ingram, Cameron Jordan, Drew Brees, and all unite and then go into, inner city New Orleans, go into the wards and try to start doing some unification work and actually work with people of color on making unity not just a symbol, but an actual thing that we live. If that is what starts it, I love it. If nothing happens, if we go 2 or 3 weeks and nothing else happens, I mean, we just lock arms again, I feel like we're wasting our time, because we don't need somebody else to bring up the message. It's already being talked about. Now, if you have, I'm trying to find a way to word this that isn't offensive, because what I'm saying is not meant to offend anybody, and I don't want anybody to get upset by it. But personally, I don't feel like we have to recreate the message if it's already being talked about. Now, you can, especially as a preacher, I understand this, you need to change the message for who you're talking to. So New Orleans is not going to receive the same thing from Colin Kaepernick, and certainly white America is not going to receive from Colin Kaepernick, because I'll say this, white America and white Saints fans, I don't have any statistics on this, and this is not meant to sound racist to other people, just listen. White America, white Saints fans were far more accepting of this display of unity than Colin Kaepernick. And here's why I'm okay with that, because if what happened last night gets my people into the conversation, if it makes them feel okay enough to see what's going on and what's wrong, then it's awesome. I'm proud of it. I support it. If nothing happens past last night, though, all we did was have a photo op. And photo ops just aren't good enough. Martin Luther King didn't just do photo ops. He marched. Malcolm X didn't just do photo ops. He did more than march. I don't want to get into history lessons because we've only got 30 minutes left. But, Rosa Parks didn't just do a photo op. I mean, she stood up for her rights. I mean, and not just them. Robert Kennedy, a great politician of the 20th century, stood up for those rights. We need something more than just a photo op and talk. So I say all that to say this. What Ingram, Brees, Jordan, Bird, all the leaders of the Saints did with the Falcons, I like what it can start to be. I just don't think that's enough, and I don't want anybody else to think that's enough, To me, that's not enough. We need more. As long as people understand that, I think we're